Hello, everyone. Professor Wood here. I am going to talk to you today about the critical analysis research paper topic and thesis statement assignment for 1102. This is one of the first steps in preparing for your larger research paper, so it is very important that you take your time with it and complete it carefully. So for this assignment, you're of course not writing the full paper yet. Instead, you are choosing your research topic and creating a strong thesis statement that can guide your paper that you will write later on in the semester. So your full critical analysis research paper will be due closer to the end of the semester, but before you could begin drafting that paper, you need to select one of the approved literary topics listed in the critical literary analysis research paper requirements. And you can find those requirements in Brightspace under the content area. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. And we're going to go to content. And we're going to go to the critical research paper actual assignment. Okay, so these are your topics you can choose from. You have Flannery O'Connor, A Good Man is Hard to Find. You have Alice Walker, Everyday Use. Catherine Mansfield, Miss Brill. You have Kafka, The Metamorphosis. That is the only one that we are not reading in the course. But if you are familiar with the story, you can certainly take your time. It's really, really ripe for analysis. The other topics are Langston Hughes, Robert Frost, war poetry comparison, or you can compare and contrast two short stories from the approved list. That being said, this is a research paper. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the information. Your full critical research analysis paper will be due closer to the end of the semester. So like I said, you need to select one of the approved topics. So for example, one possible topic, and it's not there, but I'm using this for an example, might ask you to analyze how literary element works in the Grimm brothers short story Godfather Death. It's one of the first short stories in your textbook. This story gives you several possible directions for analysis. You could look at symbolism, you can look at characterization, you can look at theme, irony, or the way the story presents fate and human choice. Ironically enough, a lot of people, when they read Godfather Death, they find a lot of similarities to J.K. Rowling's use in the Harry Potter series, which is probably inspired by the Brothers Grimm. So once you choose your topic, your next step is to create a thesis statement. So for this assignment, I want you to really focus on writing a thesis that is clear, specific, and useful for organizing your paper, because the thesis statement serves as a map. So there are two common types of thesis statements that authors or beginning writers, composition writers often use. I'm going to stop share really quickly, and I'm going to move into my document here. And I'm going to share the screen with you so that you can see a couple of different things. The first type here is an explicit thesis statement. An explicit thesis statement clearly states the main argument of the paper and includes categories that will guide the body paragraphs. This is the easiest to do. Because these categories help both the writer and the reader understand where the paper is going. So in this one, I have used Godfather Death, as I mentioned earlier. So this example, the topic is analyze how the Grimm brothers use literary elements to develop the theme of ambition in Godfather Death. So an explicit thesis statement would be, in Godfather Death, the Grimm brothers use symbolism, characterization, and irony to reveal the dangers of ambition when it is not guided by wisdom or moral responsibility. This is explicit because it gives the main argument and clearly names the three categories that the paper will discuss: symbolism, characterization, and irony. These categories should then appear in the body paragraphs of the paper. One section might discuss symbolism, another might focus on characterization, and another might explain the use of irony. Now, the second type of thesis statement that you could use is an implied thesis statement. An implied thesis statement still takes a position, but it does not clearly list the categories that will organize the paper. For some students, this is easier. However, you are taking the chance of having what I refer to as squirrel moments because it's very easy to go off track. But I did want to give you an example of this just so that you would have it. So, Godfather Death. In Godfather Death, the Grimm brothers show that ambition can lead to dangerous consequences. It's not a bad idea, but it is very much less specific. It gives the audience, the reader, the general argument, but it does not tell the audience how the paper will prove that argument. So the audience, myself, the teacher, is not sure if the paper is going to focus on symbolism, character, conflict, theme, irony, or another literary element. So for beginning writers, such as yourself, the explicit thesis statement is usually stronger because it gives you a clear plan. It helps you stay focused, and it helps your reader understand the direction of your argument. So now I'm going to look at what you need to do for this assignment. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. And I am going to go to my table of contents here. And I'm going to scroll down to the writing task items and objectives. And I'm going to look at the critical analysis research paper topic and thesis instructions. Now, the first thing you need to do is actually review the critical literary analysis research paper requirements. Then choose one of the approved topics. After that, you need to create a document in MLA format that includes your selected topic and your thesis statement. This is not a long assignment, but it does have to be carefully formatted and thoughtfully written. It needs the correct MLA heading, it needs double spacing, 1-inch margins, and a clear assignment title. MLA formatting is a requirement for this course, so please make sure that you're practicing it correctly, even on shorter assignments like this one, that includes a double spacing. So your document should include two main parts. First, you're going to write your selected topic. This can come from the approved list again in Brightspace. Second, you're going to write your thesis statement. Your thesis statement needs to make an argument about the literary work and include 2 to 4 clear categories that can become the body paragraphs of your paper. So, like I said, with the example that I gave you on Godfather Death, analyze how the Grimm brothers use literary elements to develop the theme of ambition in Godfather Death. The thesis statement that I showed you earlier, in Godfather Death, the Grimm brothers use symbolism, characterization, and irony to reveal the dangers of ambition when it is not guided by wisdom or moral responsibility. Notice, again, that this does not simply say that the story is about ambition. It makes a claim about what the story suggests about ambition. It also gives the audience or the reader 3 categories that can help us organize the paper, and organization is extremely important. This particular assignment, your topic and thesis instructions, will be evaluated on your ability to select an appropriate topic and create a coherent, logical thesis statement. It needs to be specific enough to guide a research paper, but not so broad that it becomes difficult to support. Additionally, I would urge you to go ahead and start exploring the library to see if you can find secondary sources on the topic that you select. After you submit the assignments, I will provide feedback to you. Please make sure that you read that feedback carefully. These comments that I give you are meant to help you strengthen your thinking before you begin the larger paper later in the semester. And remember, as this is a summer course, it does move very rapidly, but this assignment is simply a starting point. A strong topic in a thesis statement will make the research paper much easier to write because you already have a clear map and a clear direction. So if you have questions about the assignments, the topic options, MLA formatting, or your thesis statement, please make sure that you reach out before the deadline. Again, you have here a sample as well. This is from a clean, well-lighted place. And you can also look at that. You can look at the thesis and the topic. This is what the assignment should look like. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing the topics and thesis statements that you develop. Have a wonderful week.